Since coming to Buenos Aires, I have had to take the kids shopping on my own in stores a lot more. And this is a new experience for us because in Tennessee, my daughter goes to school and my son naps at home and my husband works from home, or I can take my son to my parents' house and he can nap there, or I can just leave him with my mom and I can go shop by myself if I need to. But for the most part, I just order stuff when it comes to my house. So here in Argentina, it's really hard for us to get stuff delivered to us for a large variety of reasons. And so I'm taking the kids out more. We're going to the grocery store, we're going shopping for clothes, for toys, we're going to bakeries, we're going all over the place. Half the time it's just giving us something to do. And they are out in stores more. And I was noticing it was really hard for my daughter, and despite thinking that I had sufficiently prepared my 7-year-old autistic daughter to go shopping, she was having a difficult time with that. And so I wrote a social story about going shopping. And like all of my other social stories, this is a neuro-affirming, inclusive social story. I started writing these social stories a few years ago because when my daughter was first diagnosed, I noticed that so many social stories were about how the child the story was for, how their behavior impacted other people. So if you do X, other people are going to feel Y. So therefore you shouldn't do it. Or if you do Y, then other people are going to think X about you, and therefore you shouldn't do it. Instead of being supportive and affirming and saying, it's okay to be having a hard time with this. These are the things that you can do to help with this hard time. These are the tools to help you get through this experience, not to make you more neurotypical, but to give you an accommodation. So for example, my 7-year-old is about the size of a 10-year-old. She's very tall. And often when I take her to a store, not really here because they don't have large carts here, but at home in the States, I very often will put her in a grocery cart. Like at Walmart, most of the time, she's in the grocery cart because that's just the best place for her. It's less overwhelming for her. She's not going to run off. It's better. Do I get weird looks from people? 100%. Do I care? Absolutely not. Because that's an accommodation that she needs, and it helps her get through the store. And she has a better experience. And so having that in mind when writing these kinds of social stories is why I do it. And also, when I say they're inclusive, I try to bring in all genders, races, ethnicities, disabilities. You'll see a lot of people with different kinds of disabilities in my social stories because that's what life is like. You're going to see someone in a wheelchair or someone with a physical or non-physical disability or difference. You're going to see men, women, all shapes and sizes. You're going to see kids. That is just life. They're not all going to be white people who look like me or white people that look like my daughter. And so every page is different. Every child on every page of the story is different to help it be more relatable. I don't use the same child throughout each story for the most part, just to give it some variety. There are a few of my social stories that I do that with, but that's for a very specific reason, and you can find those on my site. All of my digital downloads, including my social stories, are $5 each, so they're as accessible as possible, and you can download them and use what you want, what you don't want, what you need, what you don't need. So I'm going to walk you through how I created the social story and some of the things that I do behind the scenes. So I did actually buy the art for all of my social stories. I did not create it myself. I did want to create it myself originally, but I just didn't have the time or the bandwidth. And so I went on Etsy and I found a few different artists, almost all exclusively from Ukraine, and I bought the rights to their art along with licenses to be able to sell it. And then in some cases, depending on the story I'm doing, I edit things and combine people and situations. And like in the going shopping social story, you'll see me adding children sitting in a shopping cart. That's not the original art, but I created that.
You'll also notice that this specific social story is a bit more detailed in the images than most of my social stories. I tend to keep them more simple and focused on what should be happening in the image. But for this specific social story, I wanted to depict different kinds of stores that the child would be experiencing, just to give an idea of what to expect. There is a plant store, a clothing store, a candy store, a home goods store, a lamp store, and a few others. And here you can see me creating the grocery store that is for the cover page. And like I said, these are definitely busier than my typical social story illustrations, but I really wanted to depict the different kinds of stores that children would experience. Then, as always, I printed out the social story, and usually when I print these out, I then create a book with them. And being where I am in Buenos Aires, I did not have access to the same things I usually use to create the book, so I'm going to show you what I did differently this time. Originally, I was just going to staple the book, but I went to one of our local stores in our neighborhood, and I found this folder that had these plastic sheets in it. I was looking for something like this or just like plastic sheets I could put in a binder, but this was perfect because I didn't have to add an extra binder. I did have a little bit of a hard time figuring out how to separate the sheets to put the pages in them. Probably took me a solid 5 minutes, maybe 10. Longer than I would have liked. First, I thought maybe they would just work static, like they would statically stick to the plastic, but that's clearly not working here. So I eventually figured it out and I was able to open each folder. And then I just put the pages inside the folders back to back so that when you flipped the page, you could see the other side. And this worked perfectly. I didn't have to cut anything. I didn't have to glue anything like I usually do, which that is a really nice way to do it. The way I do it with a lot of my other social stories. If you go back and look at my other videos, you can see those. But this, I didn't have to do anything else. And this was a very inexpensive folder. I think it might have been $1.50, maybe $2 USD. And it took me like 5 minutes to do the whole thing. So that was really, really nice. Very different, like I said, from before. There was an issue with printing one of the pages. The printer that we have here just decided that it didn't want to print the cabinet on the candy store page nicely. It wanted to have a streak in it. But all the other pages printed fine, so I don't know what the deal is. And then I just used clear packing tape to secure the title page to the front of the book. I did mess that up a little bit, and so it does not look as nice as I would have liked, but I'm still happy with it. And it's super easy for my daughter to use. And if I want to, I can change out what's in here or not. I can leave it, and I will likely make a few more social stories in this format before we leave Argentina.
So hopefully this is helpful for any of you. And like I said, you can find all of my downloads, including this social story and all my other social stories, on my site for $5. You can find them at breezingthrough.com. And if you like this video, please like and share. And of course, comment below if you have any other social stories that you're interested in me doing. And I hope you subscribe and follow along for more videos.